The chill of dawn had barely touched Emmerdale, yet a tempest was already raging within the Dingle household. The air, thick with unspoken accusations and simmering resentments, was a stark contrast to the deceptive calm outside. Gabby, her eyes swollen from a night of tears and sleepless anguish, stood rigid in the living room, the memory of Vinny's confession echoing like a death knell in her ears. Each word, questioning his sexuality, feelings for Cammy, tried to kiss him, was a fresh stab to her already shattered heart. Her husband, the man she believed to be her rock, her future, had unraveled before her eyes, revealing a labyrinth of lies and a truth too painful to bear. The engagement ring, once a symbol of eternal devotion, now felt like a lead weight on her finger, mocking her naive trust. Vinny, a ghost of his former self, lingered in the doorway, his face a canvas of remorse and terror. His pleas for forgiveness, his desperate vows of honesty, were lost in the chasm that had opened between them. He reached out, a tentative hand seeking solace, but Gabby recoiled as if touched by fire. "Don't," she whispered, her voice a fragile tremor. "Don't you dare touch me." The raw pain in her voice was a testament to the profound betrayal she felt. Her world, meticulously constructed on a foundation of love and perceived stability, had crumbled in an instant. The future she envisioned for Thomas, for them, now seemed like a cruel mirage. Meanwhile, Marlon and Rona, their faces etched with a different kind of terror, were rushing through the hospital corridors. The news of Leo's ecstasy overdose hung heavy in the air, a poisonous cloud threatening to suffocate their hopes. The doctor's words, seizure, hypertension, long-term damage to his heart, played on a loop, each syllable a hammer blow to their parental hearts. The guilt, a suffocating blanket, pressed down on Marlon. Why April? Why would she leave him? He muttered, his voice hoarse with despair, not knowing the true, horrifying depths of the predicament his eldest daughter was now entangled in. Back in the village, the police car, its blue lights a silent, ominous sentinel, cast long shadows across the street where April and Celia were locked in a chilling, clandestine meeting. The scent of fear hung heavy in the air, mingling with the crisp autumn breeze. Celia, her eyes like chips of ice, held April in a vice-like grip, her words dripping with venom and menace. "You lost Ray thousands of pounds, and this is how you repaid him? You ungrateful little wretch." Her voice, though low, was laced with an authority that sent shivers down April's spine. April, trembling, her face pale with terror, felt the weight of the world crushing her. The image of Leo, convulsing in his bed, flashed before her eyes, intensifying her resolve to tell the truth. But Celia's chilling ultimatum echoed, "If you say one word about where you got those drugs from, we would have to retaliate." "Now, you think little Leo's in trouble now? It is as nothing compared to what happens next. Your brother's not the one you need to worry about. Because maybe one day, you'll go missing again. Only this time, they won't find you. Not all of you anyway." The stark reality of the threat, the casual way Celia had articulated such unspeakable violence, made April's blood run cold. She saw the true face of the drug world, cold, ruthless, unforgiving. Her dream of telling the truth, of escaping the nightmare, dissolved into a terrified silence. She was trapped, a pawn in a game far beyond her comprehension. She could almost feel the phantom hands of unseen enforcers closing around her. As the police officers approached, their footsteps heavy on the pavement, April forced a shaky breath. With Celia's menacing gaze fixed upon her, she uttered the carefully constructed lie, a web of deceit woven from desperation and fear. "Them. By the swings near Houghton Academy." Her voice wavered, but the words, once spoken, took on a life of their own, cementing her fate. The officers, though seemingly accepting of her story for now, exchanged a subtle, knowing glance that suggested their investigation was far from over. April had bought herself time, but at what cost? The police may be appeased, but the shadowy figures behind Celia would be watching, waiting. The true horror had only just begun. Meanwhile, Robert Sugden, ever the manipulator, was locked in a tense conversation with Aaron Dingle. The prison visit to Kev had left him with a tantalizing proposition, Kev's fortune. But at what price? Robert's face, usually a mask of controlled cunning, betrayed a flicker of genuine internal conflict. He wanted the money, the security it promised, but his newly rekindled feelings for Aaron, a love that had defied time and separation, were warring with his inherent opportunism. "I couldn't," Robert admitted, his voice unusually strained. "It's not that simple." Aaron, ever the pragmatist, saw through the facade. "I thought Aaron meant more to you than money," he challenged, his gaze piercing. Robert, cornered, conceded. "He does, and so does Kev. That's not what this is about." A thinly veiled lie, a desperate attempt to justify the unthinkable. "Oh, come on, Robert. I know you," Aaron scoffed, his voice tinged with a bitterness that spoke of past hurts. "And you can't tell me the prospect of being minted hasn't got your spidey senses tingling." Robert, finally admitting his greed, a dark shadow passing over his features, whispered, "Yeah, who wouldn't want it? Just think what we could do with that kind of money. We'd be set for life." The dangerous allure of wealth was blinding him to the moral compromises he was making. Aaron, however, refused to be swayed by the siren song of riches. "So more lies," he stated, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Oh, brilliant. Just what we all need, and I'm sure Aaron will be super happy to have yet another fella who can't be honest with him. The sting of Aaron's words, laced with the bitter memories of previous betrayals, landed squarely on Robert. Robert, in a desperate attempt to protect his fragile relationship, countered, "I'm trying to protect him. Kev's out again on day release soon, and if he finds out there's someone else, then Aaron will be in danger. And I can't risk that." But the excuse, even to Robert's own ears, sounded hollow. Aaron's eyes, narrowed with suspicion, held a deep, unyielding disappointment. "So it's Aaron's best interests you have at heart, is it? You know, for all your talk about being a changed man, you sound like the same old Robert to me." The accusation hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared history. Robert was teetering on a precipice, the chasm of his past ready to swallow him whole. The changed man facade was cracking, revealing the opportunistic core that Aaron knew all too well. The village pub, usually a hub of boisterous laughter, was unusually subdued. Vinny, ostracized and heartbroken, sat alone, nursing a pint, the bitter taste mirroring the bile in his throat. Gabby's words, "I don't even know who you are, Vinny," echoed in his mind, a constant, tormenting refrain. He had lost everything, his wife, his sense of self, his future. Desperate for solace, for understanding, he called Kemi. "Kemi, mate, I need to talk to you. I've really messed up." His voice was raw with despair, a plea for help he hadn't realized he needed until now. Kemi, ever the loyal friend, arrived quickly, his face a mixture of concern and bewilderment. Vinny, his voice a barely audible whisper, poured out his heart, confessing the full extent of his internal struggle, his questioning sexuality, his feelings for Kemi, the blackmail, the ABH, the extortion. He painted a vivid, horrifying picture of Mike Connolly's manipulation, how he had preyed on Vinny's vulnerability, twisting his deepest fears into weapons against him. He knew how much it'd hurt Gabby if she found out that I was having feelings for Kemi, and that I'd tried to kiss him. The admission hung in the air, a shocking revelation that stunned Kemi. He watched his friend, shattered and broken, and a fierce protectiveness welled up within him. "But it wasn't just money that he wanted," Vinny continued, his voice shaking with renewed anger. "He'd been trying to intimidate me to drop the charges and not testify against him. Liar," he recalled Connolly's outburst in court, the sheer audacity of the man. "And then yesterday, he came round to my house wanting compensation for losing his job. He said I'd lose my family if he didn't get it." The full weight of Connolly's insidious machinations, his relentless psychological warfare, became chillingly clear. Kemi listened, his initial shock giving way to a cold, hard fury. "You can't defend a monster," Vinny had declared in court, and now, Kemi understood why. The magnitude of Vinny's ordeal, the courage it had taken to stand up in court, now shone through. Kemi, his jaw clenched, vowed to stand by his friend. But a new question began to form in his mind. What was he going to do with this explosive confession? At the hospital, the tension was palpable. Marlon and Rona were reeling from the police's questions, the insinuation of drugs in their home a fresh wound. But April was nowhere to be found. Brenda, April's grandmother, arrived, her face a mask of worry, having heard snippets of the horrifying news. "Where is she? Where's April?" Her voice was laced with a desperate urgency. Marlon, his frustration boiling over, explained April's fabricated story to the police. Brenda's eyes widened in horror. "You don't think she's done a runner, do you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "No, she wouldn't." "Would she?" Rona tried to reassure her. "No, she wouldn't." But the doubt lingered, a cold dread creeping into their hearts. The implication that April, their sweet, innocent April, could be involved with drugs was unfathomable. Yet, the evidence spoke for itself. As the police continued their investigation, Brenda, driven by a mother's fierce love, decided to take matters into her own hands. She stormed out of the hospital, her mind racing, a burning need to find April consuming her. She knew her granddaughter better than anyone, and April's story felt off. It was too convenient, too perfect. She started her search at Houghton Academy, near the swings where April claimed to have found the drugs. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and growing suspicion. She found no discarded bag, no evidence of a casual find. The swing stood empty, swaying gently in the wind, a silent testament to April's carefully constructed lie. Brenda's suspicion solidified into a grim certainty. April was lying, and she was in far deeper trouble than anyone imagined. The raw fear for her granddaughter's safety was now intertwined with a growing anger at the deception. Back at the hospital, the doctor called Marlon and Rona aside, his face grave. "Leo is calming down, but it's been a very unsettling ordeal." His words offered a fleeting moment of relief, quickly extinguished by the solemn continuation. "There's no easy way to say this. Leo's had an adverse reaction to ecstasy." The words hit them like a physical blow. Rona, tears streaming down her face, sobbed, That can't be right. Do you keep drugs in your house?" Marlon, shaking his head vehemently, insisted, "Absolutely not, no. Not even painkillers." The doctor, his expression unchanged, delivered the devastating blow. "We found a bag containing an ecstasy pill in his pocket. We're not sure how many he's taken. 1, maybe 2. They're brightly colored, and children can easily mistake them for sweets." The image of Leo, so innocent, mistaking poison for candy, was almost unbearable. Will he be all right? Rona choked out, her voice barely a whisper. The doctor's next words hung heavy in the sterile air. Leo suffered a seizure and appears to have some hypertension. It's too early to tell if there'll be any long-term damage to his heart. His heart. The word echoed, a terrifying pronouncement. All we can do is monitor him, keep him hydrated and let things run their course. The helplessness, the crushing inability to protect their child, was agonizing. You should know that since drugs are involved, I've had to inform the police and social services, the doctor added, almost as an afterthought. Marlon, numb with shock, could only nod. Of course, yeah. I don't understand. Where would he have got drugs from? Rona, her eyes filled with dawning horror, looked at Marlon. I think we could hazard a guess. The unspoken accusation, a cold blade, hung between them, pointing towards April. The family was fracturing under the weight of this unimaginable tragedy. Fleeing from Vinny, her heart a shattered mosaic, Gabby sought refuge with Laurel, her only confidant. The truth, ugly and painful, spilled out. Vinny's double life, his confusion, his attempt to kiss Kemi. I feel like I've married a complete stranger, she sobbed, the raw pain in her voice staring at Laurel's heart. Laurel, though sympathetic, knew there was another truth lurking, a truth Gabby was desperately trying to avoid. Sweetheart, can I just remind you that you haven't been entirely honest with him either? Laurel gently pressed, her words a quiet reminder of Gabby's own betrayal. Gabby, still reeling, lashed out. That's different. How? Because I can't tell him about Portugal, Laurel. It'll just break his heart, and I don't want to hurt him. Her voice was high-pitched, defensive. Laurel, refusing to back down, delivered a painful truth. Well, maybe he doesn't want to hurt you. And maybe you should ask yourself why you're reacting like this. Is it because you feel guilty for cheating on him? The word cheating hung in the air, sharp and unyielding. Gabby recoiled, her face contorted in anguish. Oh, I feel horrible. Laurel, with unwavering resolve, continued, so instead of going on this crusade to try and catch him, why don't you just let Vinny come to you in his own time? But Gabby, consumed by her own pain and a furious sense of injustice, was not ready to listen. I mean, at least he didn't cheat on you, Laurel continued, trying to offer some perspective. Gabby snapped, no, not for the one of trying. Laurel, with a sigh, reiterated, yeah, but you two haven't been communicating. If you were truly happy, that incident in Portugal wouldn't have happened. Gabby, tears streaming down her face, insisted, I love Vinny. Laurel, her voice firm, said, yeah, and if you want to move forward, you'll have to tell him everything. But he didn't tell me. I found out. There's a big difference. The emotional chasm between Gabby and Vinny, now exposed, seemed insurmountable. Gabby, clutching at straws, cried, so he's just gonna find out by accident? Oh, I don't know. But if I tell him now, that is my marriage over. Laurel, having walked this painful path before, offered a final, heartbreaking piece of advice. It doesn't have to be. And take it from somebody who's been married a couple of times. The truth is always better than the lies, however painful. Love. The words, though true, felt like a cruel irony to Gabby, whose entire world was now built on a foundation of deceit. As the police statements were taken, April's fabricated story was now woven into the official record. But the relief was short-lived. A dark cloud descended upon Celia and Ray, the true architects of April's misery. Did you get to her on time? Ray snarled, his face contorted with fury. Celia, her eyes blazing, confirmed, only just. The sniveling little rat was about to tell the police absolutely everything. Ray, seething, spat, I didn't think she'd be so stupid. Celia, ever the colder, more calculating one, retorted, because you're too soft. You've always been too soft. We came this close to spending the rest of our lives in prison. Is that what you want? Ray, chastened, muttered, no, of course not. Celia's voice, now a menacing whisper, cut through the tension. I have told you over and over again, you need to be tougher with these kids. Have you learned nothing? I'm doing my best. Do better, Celia hissed, her voice rising. It is at times like these I wish I left you on the streets where I found you. But, no, I took you in. I raised you at considerable expense. I gave you everything you could ever need. And this is how you've turned out. The words were laced with a venom that revealed the true, abusive nature of their relationship. You are a useless, pathetic, weak little man. You let a young girl, a child, humiliate you today. You gonna let her get away with it? Ray, his spirit crushed, mumbled, no. It won't happen again, I swear. Celia, her eyes glittering with a chilling resolve, delivered her final, terrifying instruction. You bet your backside it won't, because from now on, there will be no more Mr. Nice Guy with April. Do you understand? She needs to know her place. And if she ever steps out of line again, you know what needs to be done. The chilling implication, the unspoken threat of extreme violence, hung heavy in the air. Ray, his face pale with fear, could only nod. Yes, Mum. Celia's control was absolute, and April was now firmly caught in her insidious web, a puppet on a string, dancing to a tune that could lead her to ruin. The nightmare for April was far from over. In fact, it had just begun. The village, usually a safe haven, was now a dangerous playground for these ruthless criminals, and April was their new toy. Later, Robert, his mind churning, sought out Aaron again. The lure of Kev's money, the promise of a life free from financial worries, was too strong to resist. "I just want to say that I never thought about leaving you," Robert began, a desperate attempt to reassure Aaron. "It's you that I want. It's you that I love." Aaron, his expression unreadable, simply stated, "I love you too." Robert, seizing the moment, made a grand declaration, "And I promise to be honest about everything." But the words, even as he spoke them, felt like ash in his mouth. Aaron, however, was not easily fooled. "Vinny, it's not that simple." He was still struggling with the implications of Robert's past, his tendency towards deception. Robert, sensing his window of opportunity closing, pleaded, "Yeah, but you know everything now, okay? And I swear, hand on my heart, no more secrets." He was trying to buy time, to convince Aaron to stay, to allow him to pursue the inheritance without further complications. "I'm not sure we can," Aaron replied, his voice laced with doubt. Robert, desperate, switched tactics. "I've got another day of compassionate leave coming up. I thought I could come to yours again and we could lock ourselves in your bedroom for the day." A desperate attempt to rekindle their romance, to distract Aaron from the underlying deception. Aaron, however, countered with a suggestion that truly resonated with their shared past. "Yeah, that sounds great, but you always wanted to go Whitby, have a chippy tea by the sea." Robert, taken aback by Aaron's memory, mumbled, "You remembered that?" "Yeah, course." A flicker of genuine emotion crossed his face. He saw the potential for a real future, a future that didn't involve Kev's blood money. But the devil on his shoulder, the allure of the inheritance, was too strong. "Well, that was either the world's most amicable breakup, or someone hasn't ended things with their secret husband," Aaron remarked, his voice tinged with a knowing cynicism. Robert, caught in his lie, sighed. "I couldn't. It's not that simple." Aaron, with a determined glint in his eye, declared, "Well, then there's one thing to do." "You're telling Aaron?" Robert groaned, "Not this again." But Aaron was unwavering. "I thought Aaron meant more to you than money." Robert, in a moment of shocking candor, confessed, "He does, and so does Kev. That's not what this is about." A chilling revelation, he was putting Kev, and his money, on equal footing with Aaron. Aaron, however, saw through the flimsy excuse. "Oh, come on, Robert. I know you. And you can't tell me the prospect of being minted hasn't got your spidey senses tingling." Robert, finally giving in to his greed, a dark hunger in his eyes, admitted, "All right, fine. Yeah, who wouldn't want it? Just think what we could do with that kind of money. We'd be set for life." But Aaron, refusing to be swayed, posed a critical question. "Okay, say you do inherit Kev's money. How are you planning on explaining that to Aaron?" Robert, his face a mask of calculated indifference, replied, "Well, I'll think of something. So more lies." Aaron's voice was filled with a chilling resignation. "Oh, brilliant. Just what we all need, and I'm sure Aaron'll be super happy to have yet another fella who can't be honest with him." Robert, in a desperate attempt to justify his actions, argued, "I'm trying to protect him. Kev's out again on day release soon, and if he finds out there's someone else, then Aaron'll be in danger. And I can't risk that." But Aaron, his eyes burning with a deep, unwavering disappointment, delivered the final blow. "So it's Aaron's best interests you have at heart, is it? You know, for all your talk about being a changed man, you sound like the same old Robert to me." The raw truth of Aaron's words hung in the air, a devastating indictment of Robert's inability to truly change. The new Robert was a carefully constructed illusion, and Aaron had seen through it. The trust between them, already fragile, shattered into a million pieces. The day ended with a series of unsettling scenes. Gabby, alone in her sorrow, deleted all photos of Vinny from her phone, a symbolic act of severing ties, her marriage hanging by the thinnest of threads. Vinny, meanwhile, sat in the pub, drowning his sorrows, his confession to Cammy a desperate cry for help. Cammy, torn between loyalty and a burgeoning, forbidden attraction, struggled with the weight of Vinny's confession. And April, under the watchful, menacing eye of Ray, began to act out her new, terrifying role as a reluctant drug mule. As darkness fell, a chilling scene unfolded at the Dingle house. A frantic knocking at the door startled Kane and Moira. Kane opened it to find two ominous figures, cloaked in shadow, their faces unreadable. "We're looking for April Dingle," one of them stated, his voice low and gravelly. "It's about the little boy in the hospital." Kane, his protective instincts flaring, narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" But before they could answer, the second figure, a woman with a cold, unforgiving gaze, stepped forward. It was Celia. "We're here to ensure April understands the consequences of her actions." The air crackled with unspoken threats. Kane, sensing danger, stood firm, but a terrible realization dawned on him. April was in far deeper trouble than he could ever have imagined. The drug world, a shadowy, ruthless force, had come to Emmerdale, and April was at its mercy. In the next gripping episode of Emmerdale, the full force of Celia's vengeance will be unleashed upon April. Will Kane be able to protect his niece from the ruthless drug dealers? As Vinny grapples with his shattered marriage and his burgeoning feelings for Cammy, Gabby will make a devastating decision that could change their lives forever. And Robert, blinded by greed, will take a dangerous step towards securing Kev's inheritance, but at what cost to his relationship with Aaron? As the village descends into a web of deceit, betrayal, and terrifying threats, one thing is certain: no one is safe, and the consequences of their choices will ripple through Emmerdale, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Will redemption be possible, or will the darkness consume them all? The answers, as always, lie in the tangled, dramatic tapestry of Emmerdale.